Now, I, Mary Magdalene, know more about what you're talking about, but if I was hearing this for the first time, you're talking about a changing in substance, you're talking about potentials being unlocked in me, but what are... I'm assuming it's a potential for more truth, a potential to experience more love. What's the benefits? Why would I want divine love?
Well, it's the potential for you to feel like God feels on literally every issue that you could ever raise. So, for example, when you look at a situation that you currently see as painful, once you've received divine love to the point of at-one-ment with God, you'll look upon that situation as God looks upon it. You will actually feel the way God feels about that situation.
So instead of feeling fear and pain, you might feel compassion and intense love.
And you'll feel completely different feelings.
Yes.
Yeah, and as a result of that, you'll also feel extreme happiness all the time. There'll be no limitation to your happiness because your happiness can continue to grow. Yeah. So I feel that the first positive benefit is the fact that eventually I will become like God in my feelings. Now, if a person imagines what that... Now, it's very hard this is the problem with receiving divine love, is that most people do not desire things unless they know what the outcome is.
Yes.
Right? But the problem with receiving divine love is that, if you could say there is a problem, is that the majority of people on earth has no idea about what the possible outcomes are of receiving divine love. And as a result of that, they don't have an intense desire for it. Whereas if they understood all of the possibilities and truly felt them in their heart, they would not. It would be the thing they sought for the most in their life, not the least, or just as a side thought, or just as some kind of side idea. They would be totally and completely and utterly focused on actually wanting to have this love to that point. Yep. They would not be distracted by any other things other than receiving this love, if they understood the benefits.
Yes. So you're saying one of the benefits is that at the point of at-one-ment with God, I will feel what God feels about any given situation.
And God is never sad.
No.
And God is always happy.
Yeah.
And God is always loving. So you will always be loving in every dealing you have.
Now, just to clarify that, then I've had people say, well, then I've lost my individuality. Where's the point? Where's my personality if I just become...
And I would argue that they're still not understanding what's being offered to them.
Yes.
Because what's being offered to them is a purification of their personality to its pure nature, not an absorption into God.
Yeah.
Because we're still an individual. In fact, the more we progress in love, the more individual we become. That is what God designed us to be, an individual. Yeah. That's why the whole process of incarnation is called individualization. It's about creating an individual, you, and having this individual growing to a limited perspective if they don't want to receive divine love, or having the individual grow to an unlimited condition, which will be dependent upon continually receiving divine love, of course. Now, if they understood that their personality is never going to be lost in this, and the exercise of their will is never going to be lost in this process, then many people might seek for it more. Yeah. But there is this common belief on the planet that when you connect with God, you give up your will, and you give all your will over to God. Now, of course, that doesn't sound very attractive to most people, and I can understand to a degree why that they don't feel that's attractive. And so, because they feel like their own personal nature will be absorbed, right? And that is not the case at all.
And a lot of people feel the colour and change and character of their life is defined by their highs and lows emotionally, and they don't have a sense that actually you can feel happy all of the time.
And still express your personality.
And you would be far more creative, and you will have a lot more character and vibrancy in your life.
Yeah.
You just won't be experiencing hardship or pain.
Correct.
Yeah.
So some other advantages as well are things like, once we become at one with God, we gain some of the qualities that God has. And one of those qualities is the ability to transport ourselves from place to place quite easily. We gain the quality of being able to sense and feel the individual, every individual that surrounds us, what their character is, what their nature is, what emotions they have within them, what history they have, without even having to talk to them. We have the ability to know them, truly know them, without having to actually converse with them.
So,
So that's a major ability that we gain once we become at one with God.
well, that is more than awareness, isn't it? We have an intense awareness, but it's not from. We actually also have a connection and a compassion with each individual as well. Would you say?
Of course, because
Yeah.
the love itself generates compassion.
Yes.
It doesn't generate, though, a sadness within yourself. So while you know everything that's going on around you and you know all the reasons why people are making the choices around you, you still do not feel sad that they're making those choices, because you realise that those choices were based upon the gift of free will that God gave them, and you're completely in harmony with God's idea that that's a great thing.
Yes.
It's a great thing they've
Yeah.
been given free will, even the free will to create their own pain and suffering. They've been given as a gift. So, and you're completely in harmony with God with regard to the use of free will. You also have the ability to create now at the time of inception of an idea or a concept. So rather than creating just by having to do physical effort all the time, you now have the ability to create around you, and physically create, I'm talking about, have things manifest around you through the process of your soul's engagement of desire. So that's how God creates, and we gain a lot of these gifts if we continue progressing towards God past the point of at-one-ment and continue after that point. We eventually gain a lot of these abilities that God has in our soul.
And so you're talking about creation happening just seamlessly as we have, and our emotions are in harmony with God. So as we have a loving idea, and also in response to what we feel around us, because we have this awareness of everyone around us and we have a connection to them and a love for them, then every action we take is going to be in harmony with love of them and ourselves, and our creations also will be in harmony with that love.
Exactly.
So,
and we're not only creating here, we're creating in multi-dimensional spaces in the universe at the same time, and we're aware of that. It's not that we're unaware, we know that it's happening, and we know because we can visit those homes that we're creating, for example, and the spaces we've created, and we're able to visit it because now we have the ability not only to think of ourselves in a human form, but we now have the ability to understand how the spirit body works and how I can see with my spirit body's eyes, and so all of these other advantages come to us automatically through this process of receiving divine love and having the soul transformed.
So thank you, given us a pretty compelling picture of like what it's like to be.
But to be honest, it's a very limited picture.
Sure.
Because if people understood how immense it was, for example, just the one concept of immortality, if people understood how immense that was, that one concept of immortality, knowing for certain that when you become at one with God, you will. You're right. When you become at one with God, you will always end up in this place of certainty on all subjects once you become at one with God. And knowing that everything you choose to do is certain, like the outcome is certain if it's in harmony with love.
So it's certain in terms of love. It's not necessarily certain in terms of prophetic things you're talking about.
No. And I think this is a big misunderstanding most
Yes.
people have about receiving divine love. They have this sort of concept that when you receive divine love to at-one with God, you automatically have all the knowledge of the universe. Now, if you had, that would automatically make you God, and that's not the case. The reality is that once you become at one with God, you have the amount of knowledge you had just before you became at one with God, with just a touch more love in you, that you're now at one with God. That's the reality. But the knowledge has the you can continue to grow in your knowledge because it's love, God's love, in fact, the understanding of God's love is what actually operates the entire universe. So you're not able to discover anything more about the universe unless you become at one with God. So these sixth sphere spirits, for example, who have not received divine love, they're investigating all these different things about the truths of the universe. That's what they're focused on, the creation rather than creator, right? So they're focused on all of the different things that are happening in the universe, trying to learn more and more, but they're not realising that they will not be able to learn more and more about it and know it for certain, because divine love is the thing they're going to need before they can understand it. Their soul needs to have grown into a different creature to understand it. The soul has to become more like God's soul in order to understand what God has actually done. And while you're holding on to the intellectual idea that you can understand God, right, without transforming your soul into God's nature, you're basically blocking any understanding of God and most understanding of the universe. So you have no opportunity in that place to completely understand the universe and what God has created, God's laws, and God herself. You have no opportunity to understand God either. The soul has to be developed in love, not our own love, but God's love, before we can understand those things. So there's whole groups of truths that are completely cut off from our understanding unless we receive divine love. And if we don't receive divine love, we can think we know, but we won't know. It won't be an actual, like Solomon says here, ownership. It won't be an ownership of our knowledge. We will. It'll just be an opportunity to know, or an idea or concept of knowledge, but it won't be something that we actually own and feel, because it's impossible to without receiving divine love. Yeah. And this is like, if people understood all of the issues surrounding receiving divine love and the importance of receiving divine love in their day-to-day life, if they truly want to understand everything, they wouldn't be worried about, doing this, doing that, making, fixing this, fixing. They wouldn't be worried about a lot of things in their day-to-day life as much as they would be concerned about embracing the principles of and particularly embracing God's love into the soul.